Chapter 1 Nature of Research Introduction Educational research takes many forms. This chapter introduces the subject of educational research and explains why knowledge of various kinds of research can be of value to educators. Since research is not the only method to obtain knowledge, the chapter describes several other ways and compares the strengths and weaknesses of each. A brief overview of several research methodologies sets the stage for more extensive discussion in the later chapters. 1. Some examples of educational concerns. Teachers need to know what kinds of materials, strategies, and activities best help students learn. Counselors need to know what problems hinder or prevent students from learning, and how to help them with these problems. Administrators need to know how to provide an environment for happy and productive learning. Parents need to know how to help their children succeed in school. Students need to know how to study to learn as much as they can. 2. Why research is of value. There exist many ways of obtaining information. One can consult experts, review books and articles, question or observe colleagues with relevant experience, examines one's own past experience, or even rely on intuition. All these approaches suggest possible ways to proceed, but the answers they provide are not always reliable. The scientific method provides an important way to obtain accurate and reliable information. 3. Ways of knowing. There are many ways to obtain information, including sensory experience, agreement with others, expert opinion, logic, and the scientific method. A. Sensory experience. The information people take in from their senses is the most immediate way to know things. Sensory knowledge is undependable. It is also incomplete. B. Agreement with others. People can check on the accuracy and authenticities of these sensations. Does this soup taste salty to you? Isn't that John over there? Did you hear someone cry for help? Smells like mustard, doesn't it? Obviously, there's a great advantage to checking with others about whether they see or hear what people do. It can help people discard what is untrue and manage one's life more intelligently by focusing on what is true. C. Expert opinion. There are particular individuals people should consult, experts in their field, people who know a great deal about the subject. No expert, however, has studied or experienced all there is to know in a given field, and thus, even an expert can never be totally sure. D. Logic. One's intellect, one's capability to reason things out, allows one to use sensory data to develop a new kind of knowledge. Consider the famous syllogism, all human beings are mortal. Sally is a human being. Therefore, Sally is mortal. To assert the first statement, the major premise, one needs to only generalize from one's own experience about the mortality of individuals. The second statement, the minor premise, is based entirely on sensory experience. One doesn't have to rely on one's senses then to know that the third statement, called the conclusion, must be true. E. The scientific method. The scientific method involves answering questions through systematic and public data collection and analysis. The general order of the scientific method is as follows: identifying a problem or question, clarifying the problem, determining the information needed and how to obtain it, organizing the information, interpreting the results. A common misperception of science fosters the idea that they are fixed, once for all answers to particular questions. While certainty is appealing, it is contradictory to a fundamental premise of science. All conclusions are to be viewed as tentative and subject to change, should new ideas and new evidence warrant revision. Types of research. Some of the most commonly used research methodologies in education are experimental research, correlational research, causal comparative research, survey research, ethnographic research, historical research, and action research. A. Quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods research. Quantitative research is usually based at work on the belief that the world is a single reality that can be approximated by careful study. Qualitative research, on the other hand, are likely to assume that the world is made up of multiple realities, socially constructed by different individual views of the same situation. Sometimes people will use both qualitative and quantitative approaches in the same study. This kind of research is referred to as mixed methods research. B. Experimental research. Experimental research involves manipulating conditions and studying effects. In the simplest sort of experiment, two contrasting methods are compared. An attempt is made to control for all other variables, such as student ability, age, grade level, time, materials, and teacher characteristics that might affect the outcome under investigation. Another form of experimental research, single subject research, involves the intensive study of a single individual over time. C. Correlational research. Correlational research involves studying relationships among variables within a single group, and frequently it suggests the possibility of cause and effect. The approach requires no manipulation or intervention on the part of the researcher other than administering the instruments necessary to collect the data desired. D. Causal comparative research. Causal comparative research involves comparing known groups that have had different experiences to determine possible causes or consequences of group membership. Interpretations of causal comparative research are limited, therefore, because the researcher cannot say conclusively whether a particular factor is a cause or a result of the behaviors observed. Despite the problems of interpretation, causal comparative studies are of value in identifying possible causes of observed variations in the behavior patterns of students. E. Survey research. Survey research obtains data to determine specific characteristics of a group. It involves describing the characteristics of a group by means of such instruments as interview questions, questionnaires, and tests. Responses are then tabulated and reported usually in the form of frequencies or percentages of those who answer in a particular way to each of the questions. The difficulties involved in survey research are mainly threefold: ensuring the questions are clear and not misleading. Second, getting respondents to answer questions thoroughly and honestly. And three, getting a sufficient number of the questionnaires completed and returned to enable meaningful analysis. F. Ethnographic research. The emphasis in this type of research is on documenting or portraying the everyday experiences of individuals by observing and interviewing them and relevant others. G. Historical research. Historical research involves studying some aspect of the past. H. Action research. Action research is a type of research by practitioners designed to help improve their practice. Action research differs from all the preceding methodologies in two fundamental ways. The first is that generalization to other persons, settings, situations is of minimum importance. Instead of searching for powerful generalizations, action researchers focus on getting information that will enable them to change conditions in a particular situation in which they are personally involved. The second difference involves the attention paid to the active involvement of the subjects in a study, as well as those likely to be affected by the study's outcomes. I. Evaluation research. Evaluation research is usually described as either formative or summative. Formative evaluations are intended to improve the object being evaluated. They help to form or strengthen it by examining the delivery of the program or technology and the quality of its implementation. In contrast, summative evaluations seek to examine the effects or outcomes of an object by describing what happens after the delivery of the program or technology in order to assess whether the object caused the outcome. J. All have value. Each of the research methodologies described constitutes a different way of inquiring into reality and is thus a different tool for understanding what goes on in education. The effectiveness of a particular methodology depends in large part on the nature of the research question one wants to answer and the specific context in which the particular investigation is to take place. K. Education research in the digital age. Advances in communication and digital technology have affected education researchers both in terms of subject matter and access to information. From studying the effects of computer-assisted instruction and distance learning to using internet-based surveys for data collection, technology continues to have a major impact on educational research. General research types. A. Descriptive studies. Descriptive studies describe a given state of affairs. B. Associational research. Associational research investigates relationships. C. Intervention studies. Intervention studies assess the effects of a treatment or method on outcomes. D. Meta-analysis. Meta-analysis attempts to synthesize the results of all the individual studies on a given topic by statistic means. 6. Critical analysis of research. Critical analysis of research raises basic questions about the assumptions and implications of educational research. Critics raise a number of philosophical, linguistic, ethical, and political questions, not only about educational research, but also about all fields of inquiry, ranging from the physical sciences to literature. The first issue is the question of reality. The second issue is the question of communication. The third issue is the question of values. The fourth issue is the question of unstated assumptions. The fifth issue is the question of societal consequences. 7. A brief overview of the research process. Almost all research plans include a problem statement, an exploratory question or hypothesis, definitions, a literature review, a sample of subjects, instrumentation, a description of procedures to be followed, a time schedule, and a description of intended data analysis.